Officer Insulaco and Officer Gray were speaking. Officer Gray was speaking with Ms. Sangster in the driveway. Officer Insulaco was speaking with Mr. Woolfork up at the house.
Where was, you say both? They were also speaking with Sangster and Woolfork?
Yes. Yes.
Where were they when they were speaking?
As I said, Officer Gray was with Ms. Sangster, and they were probably halfway down the driveway. Officer Insulaco and Mr. Woolfork were closer up towards the house.
Okay. And what did you do when you arrived?
I went to Officer Insulaco and Mr. Woolfork and began speaking with Mr. Woolfork.
And what did Mr. Woolfork, if any, did he say anything?
Looking at the dispatch screen, it said there had been a disturbance. When I approached Officer Insulaco and Mr. Woolfork, Officer Insulaco left and went to the street to make some phone calls. I asked Mr. Woolfork what had been going on, what if anything was going on. He said there hadn't been any disturbance. He said that Ms. Sangster was an acquaintance and that he'd come by to visit her, and that while he was there he lost his cell phone, and that they were looking for his cell phone.
Okay.
I noticed that there was what appeared to be makeup on his shirt. I asked him if she had brushed against him or if given her a hug or something. He said he didn't want to get into it. He said that he was married and Ms. Sangster is not his wife.
Outside of the shirt,
yes.
Is there anything else that you recall regarding his physical appearance?
His clothes were disheveled. His shirt was partially untucked. He was continuing several times. He was trying to fix his shirt, tuck it back in.
Now, how close did you actually get to the defendant? When you were speaking with him, how close were you?
During the entire time I was looking, we were within arm's reach.
Okay.
Several occasions.
Was there anything unusual that smelled?
I detected the odor of alcohol, of an alcoholic beverage on or about his person.
Okay. Did you see him with any alcohol or anything?
No.
But you smelled an odor of alcohol?
Yes.
Describe her demeanor.
She appeared very timid. She was almost cowering. She had her hands, was holding herself, and had her head down, was speaking very softly.
Now, you've been an officer for 7 years, you stated?
A little time before that, and I'm old as well. Yes, sir.
And have you responded to domestic violence calls
Yes.
before in the past?
Yes.
Is that behavior indicative of some type of, what is that behavior indicative of? I can rephrase the question.
Rephrase the question.
What is that behavior indicative of?
Of a victim. At some point, a white truck pulled up with a white male. It was Mr. Frankie Lax. Officer Insulaco was still by the road making phone calls. And Officer Insulaco spoke with him there. Mr. Woolfork asked several times who that was that had pulled up in the white truck. I told him I didn't know at the time. Mr. Woolfork started to get a little irate, and he again asked who it was. I told him I didn't know. He said he didn't. He asked a simple question, and he didn't want any.
How was his demeanor when he made those statements?
More aggressive.
Okay. Originally, when you arrived, what was his demeanor?
Very cordial.
Okay. Now, after that statement, which you all have, what exchange you all,
yes.
What happened next?
He again said that he wanted to know who it was at the end of the driveway. I told him that was not important to what we were dealing with right now. He said that he felt that it was, and I told him that he was not in charge of the situation.
And why did you say that? What do you mean by that? Why did you tell him that?
Because he appeared to be trying to take a more authoritative position to try to take control of the situation.
And how was the defendant affecting your investigation?
At the time, he appeared to be trying to take control. Mr. Woolfork then stated that Ms. Sangster is an employee of his and that she recently had a disciplinary action taken against her. He said that she had contacted him and wanted him to come by to speak about the matter. And so when he came over, she took his phone and hid it in the house.
Okay. Now, you said something about a makeup plan.
Yes, sir.
You would have a point. Show us the lady doing was really what we were to.
Across his right breast and to his right shoulder. Across here.
Is it considered right breast? If you can't point the word and actually saw, I know you can see it.
Appears to start here.
This is depicting what again?
This is a photograph depicting the closer shot of the makeup smear on Mr. Woolfork's shirt.
Use the point so you can kind of see where they saw
Appears to start here
and where they
and comes all the way across and to about here.
People who are impaired.
Yes, sir.
And you've gone through extensive training to do that.
Yes, sir.
You make DUI arrests all the time.
Yes, sir.
In this case, isn't it true that the sheriff was not impaired out there that night?
I did not believe him to be impaired, sir.
And you didn't even believe he needed to be tested.
Yes, sir.
Did you observe a beer bottle on the table on the back deck
Yes.
while you were there?
Yes, sir.
When you arrived, the other officers were already there.
Yes, sir.
You said he became more aggressive at one point. That only happened after Frankie Lax appeared. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And once you asked him to, he calmed down and was cooperative again.
Yes, sir.
I think at one point he even agreed if you wanted to look at his phone, if you wanted to take his phone, that was fine, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Clearly he wasn't in control, and you wasn't going to allow that, were you?
No, sir.
Is there any problem with you? Would you have hesitated in the least to arrest him if you had observed any criminal act?
No, sir.
Now, I want to make sure I understood this. You said Ms. Sangster told you that she took the sheriff's phone.
No, sir.
Okay, somebody took the sheriff's phone and was going through it and confronting him about the calls and messages?
Mr. Woolfork told me that that's what happened. Yes, sir.
Okay. Would it be correct to say that you complied with any request that you or Officer Ensalado made?
Yes, sir.
The photos of the upper left and right arm that you took were at a request of the lieutenants that were there?
Yes.
Did you notice any unusual markings of any kind? You said you were trained in investigating domestic assault officers.
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any markings, pressure marks, anything at all that would indicate to you anything unusual?
No, sir.
The makeup on the shirt in photo 20 and 21, you agree that both parties also stated that they had hugged and that's when the transfer had occurred. That's what the investigation showed.
I don't know if I spoke with Ms. Sangster about the makeup of that. And when I asked Mr. Woolfork about it, he said he didn't want to discuss.
Okay, are you aware that that's what the investigation showed later, or
No.
one of the other officers? You're not.
No, sir.
You weren't privy to that
Correct.
discussion.
Correct.